Hello, I'm Brian Fox. This is I Hate Rock Music, and in this video I'm going to talk about the Seattle band Floating Bridge. And I remember a lot of people here in Seattle talking about the band Floating Bridge. They were the house band at Eagles Auditorium between 1967 and 1969, and Eagles Auditorium was a big hall downtown here where all the big bands that came to Seattle played, Grateful Dead, etc. I actually saw the Blue Cheer at Eagles Auditorium in 1968, my first big rock show. Never been quite the same since. But Floating Bridge, the lineup of the band was Rich Dangle on guitar, and he was formerly in the Wailers and the Rooks, of course, very legendary bands here in Seattle and pretty hard rocking in their own right. So Rick Dangle on guitar, Joe Johnson on bass, Joe Johansson on guitar, and Michael Marinetti on drums. And they really pack a wallop. And not really a heavy band, but almost heavy. They really pack quite a punch. And great dual guitar work. So the band kind of morphed out of Rich Dangle on guitar from the Wailers. They first were called the Time Machine in 1967, and then they became the Unknown Factor, and then they ended up hiring Pat Gosson on vocals in 1968. He used to be in a Seattle band called Punch, and so Floating Bridge became the house band at Eagles Auditorium and played the 1968 Sky River Rock Festival, and so they had a pretty high profile here, and they did well enough to get the attention of Vault Records in L.A. and put out one album and then also a single, Brought Up Wrong and Watch Your Step. So it's pretty cool that we ended up get a single out of this band as well. And the record is out there. It's gotten increasingly hard to find, particularly in good condition. But it's really a winner, and it's got a couple of other really unusual songs on it. They do an instrumental version of Hey Jude, which mostly focuses in on the chorus, but uses it as a bass for just a long guitar overload. And they do the same thing with 8 Miles High. Once again, an instrumental version. And I get the idea that they were kind of short on material, and a lot of their originals are pretty riff oriented. They're not really arranged per se. They just start and stop, and they get a punishing riff, and then they just hammer it home for all it's worth. And it's only interrupted by a slow blues number at the end of the record. And the singer's not that great, and so, but he's adequate. Certainly works as far as overall the material's concerned. But he's definitely not a stellar singer, and it really shows on the blues number. But that said, Rich Dangle's guitar work and Joe Johansson's guitar work is really excellent. Really makes the record. The dual guitar work is really good, and he's a really good lead player. And I'm surprised there isn't a lot more work out there by him, because he's a real stunner, and he really makes the record happen. Although it's recorded reasonably well, but it's got a pretty sludgy quality just because the band is so punishing and the riffs are so massive. So as I mentioned before, they're not quite a heavy band per se. There's not big slabs of Sabbath type riffs or anything like that. But they're definitely a classic hard rock band that uses the two guitar work and really delivers, really super rocking. And so I can't tell you much more about them. As always, I'll put the link below. They're definitely worth checking out if you like the late '60s, early '70s heavy stuff. This band will really appeal to you. And although there's some weaknesses, and they're definitely a second tier band, um, definitely worthwhile. And I haven't heard that many records out there that are quite as punishing as this without being a heavy band. So highly recommended. And as I mentioned before, Rich Dangle is a really excellent guitar player, and so that really makes a lot of the records stand out just a little bit more besides the punishing riffs. So there you have it, Floating Bridge, a mixed bag, but well worth it and definitely worth having in your collection, particularly if you can find a really nice copy of it. Check it out. Links below. Floating Bridge. I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching I Hate Rock Music.